and welcome back to the Piano Boat. Today the day has finally come when we thought we would give you a tour of the boat, so it's all looking spick and span and we're going to show you all the way through, and if you do have any questions or anything that we haven't covered, of course let us know and we will endeavour to show you very soon.
Right, so firstly we might go out to the stern deck and have a look at the arrangement over there.
Welcome to the stern deck. This is like our little summer house on the back of the boat here. We've opened all the windows up today because it's really nice and sunny. And for the option of al fresco dining, we have a table which is a bit of a permanent fixture out here right now. And we are really looking forward to spending more time here as it gets warmer, because last summer it was just a really nice space to be. We have, of course, the tiller, which is our preferred method of steering the boat, but we also have a wheel, and I think Matt is going to explain how that works. But we haven't actually used the wheel yet, but we thought on rivers it might be a nice way to steer the boat, because obviously we have this seating, but you're a bit limited in where you can sit if the tiller is in use. So it just gives a bit more option for comfortable seating. We have an outdoor light here, which makes the evenings really nice and cozy. Can't really see it at the moment, but it does look really nice when it's dark. To go with the little lights underneath the seats there. And quite possibly our proudest feature on the stern has to be the Rachmaninoff life ring. We are going to look inside the engine bay, but I will leave that to Massa, I think.
Right, so here we have the helm where we control the vessel. And we have the steering wheel, as Rihanna just mentioned, and we do have a facility to decouple the hydraulics, so it's only the steering wheel rather than moving the tiller as well. And here we have the control, forward, reverse, and of course the electric drive panel, which is very good, and the bow thruster. And here we have the engine panel with the usual switches and everything, and the horn, side lights for the navigation lights, and the main tunnel light. We've got the gas locker in here, and we have a nice tray to put the wine and snacks as we cruise along. I mean, look at the view out there. This is going to be really fantastic. But before that, now we can look at the engine bay and under the stern deck. So here we are. It's quite difficult to get in, even though this is a really wide beam and much easier than squeezing into a narrowboat engine bay. So here we are. We have the infamous weed hatch, which I have been to many times over many of the narrowboat hire cruises. You pick up everything, tires, handbags, apart from the usual grass and twigs and things. So you need a knife, we got ropes and wires and all sorts of things. And so that's the weed hatch. Much easier to access here, though, fortunately, because of the size. Oh, and by the way, here's the hydraulics. This is what we use to switch between the tiller and the steering. Very well designed, very good use, very easy to use. Although, as Brianna said, we haven't actually had to use the wheel yet because we haven't been on the river, except for when we were on the acceptance trial. But this is a very good system, so we don't end up with really heavy tiller or anything like that. So then we have, of course, the Beta 90T. This is ample power to power this vessel, even when we are going against the current. And here we have the hybrid, the electric motor mounted on effectively on the mechanism here. So what happens is when you're cruising with the diesel propulsion, the extra motors will charge the batteries quicker. It's a very good system, and of course otherwise it will run entirely on electricity. So the engine is shut down and the electric motor here becomes the propulsion, and we cruise very silently. And inside here we have the calorifier tank with the hot water system. And that is all to do with the air conditioning unit. We have the pressure, we have the chiller system. So there's a cold water or chilled water ring that goes all the way across the boat. And so we have this extra filter. I have actually found a live fish in there, which I promptly released back in the canal. So there's the air conditioning. And of course, it is well known that you shouldn't really store things in the engine bay, but here we do have, never used it, a self-pump out kit in case we need it. We have the diesel pump gauge sensor there. This is the reed hatch we talked about, the coolant for the engine. And here's a close-up of our engine that we have. Also a close-up of the motor mechanism that we have on top of the gearbox right here. And here we have the boiler. Very easy to service, very easy to access again. And here, of course, we can potentially use it as extra storage, although, as I said, it's not really a good practice. And here we have some of the isolating switches, and we have a sort of a guard over the alternator belt, which was again a requirement from the PLA. Right, so now since we've opened this place up and in fact I haven't done the reed hatch for a while, I thought we might as well just check to see what it's like. So here we are. So this is the main thing. It really needs to be very tight, otherwise you risk the water coming into this whole area, which would be quite a disaster. Because this is all it is. If the water comes out of here, it's really just going to sink the boat. It's quite a scary thing. There we are. It's a sunny day, so I can see very well inside. Right, let's see what we find. Okay, I think there are things stuck around the propeller there. Time to get the knives out, maybe. Let's have a tug first. Not very clean water. It doesn't look very clean, does it? Right, let's see. Oh, very cold water. Bit of plastic. Nothing major, really. More bits. Very cold. Oh, that is cold water. Oh, this is a bit disappointing actually. Normally you expect a big hole, but nothing really, which is a good thing, of course. I think that's about it actually. No need for a knife. And nice clean propeller. I'm just checking the sides to see there are no serious dents or anything. I think it's okay. Oh, that was freezing. Oh. Okay. Good. Now it's looking much better. Of course, you want to check that there's no leaks by running the propeller for a bit, which I think is okay, even if we're moored. Good. That's on. Okay, well that's all done. So let's continue with the tour. Now here we have a nice handrail to grab because the steps onto into the narrowboat or white beam, well, these boats are quite steep, so it's quite useful to have this handrail here. And come on in. So starting from the port side, here we have the bug zapper. Could be controversial, but certainly for food hygiene, it is a must. So it actually works quite well. If you've been on boats, you do know that, particularly in the summer months, we do have lots of insects and flying things around. And yeah, as I said, it can be controversial, but certainly in our case, it's quite crucial that we do have it anyway. So it's quite a good feature. And the more traditional toaster, I put that shelf up, very nice. But here, another requirement of the food hygiene is the hand wash. It's very smart. We just basically asked TriStar Boats, look, we need a hand wash basin, something round. And they came up with this fantastic, cute, very smart looking hand wash basin, complete with an automatic tap, which is really useful because when you're out boating, you've done the ropes, you've got moored and everything, your hands are all muddy. You don't have to touch anything. Straight away, you get water, and we've got the soap dispenser and water all arranged there neatly, and behind it lurks the security camera where we do have a few of them dotted around. The boat, ample storage we do have. We've got this and my Guinness pint glasses, of course, a collection of them. We've got more of these coffee flasks and all that kind of thing, but also behind here is the disposable towel, which again is quite an important feature. I'm not going to waste this. It's quite an important feature of the food hygiene. Last bit of the storage here, we have all the glasswares, the rest of the glasswares, teapots, all the little nice things. Then we've got plenty of worktop, really smart worktop we have here. And this is really nice because the molding of the hand wash basin and everything, this worktop works really nicely. And for TriStar, I asked a deep Belfast sink. At home, we've got a rather shallow one, so I just said a deep one. Didn't say how much, but this is really good. It accommodates good saucepans and everything, exactly what we need. And we've got the usual storage here with cleaning equipments and that kind of thing. Gold tap, it's all gold here, wood and gold. It seems to have ended up to be the theme if you have been following us. So very nice here. Just got the soap dispenser, nice Brita kettle. We do have lime scale removal, but it's very hard water here. So we've got like few stages of lime scale removing. Here, this is a particular favorite of mine, a little tea center that we have here. And then of course our coffee machine, which is very good. In fact, I might make a brew right now. Nope, I can't do latte art. There we are. I will be practicing my latte art, but as it is, it was a quick job, so here we are.
Well, I feel a bit more fueled with my morning coffee now. This is our gas hob. It's actually the only part of the boat that uses gas at all, and therefore we have quite a small gas cylinder. We wanted to buy off a roving trader that was supplying gas and coal and things, but we ended up receiving a gas bottle that was far too large, and it didn't even fit in the locker because this person thought that because it was such a large boat, we would need a large gas bottle as well. So looks can be deceiving, of course. We have a nice wok ring in the middle here, which is handy for, I don't know, stir frying, except we're not allowed to stir fry. Well, it's because all of the oil and everything kind of ends up going everywhere, even though we do have this very powerful extractor fan, and this particularly Masa is very pleased with because it uses the same material from the worktops and just sort of ties in the whole design. And it was something that Michelle at TriStar came up with and turned out really nicely. So this is our cooking station, and here we have a full-size fridge and freezer, very handy for food storage. On my left, we have a double oven. This also serves as a microwave, so it's I think it's called a combi. It works as a microwave and an oven, and a grill, very handy. And this one also has a grill function as well. So if we want to make lots of cakes, then we can. Plenty of storage in here. We've also got these very smart drawers under here. There's plinth storage, so handy for extra food. Under there as well, under the sink, and then nice deep drawers here. A dishwasher, full-size dishwasher, and a washing machine. So one of our concerns was, because we have all of these appliances, how are we going to get enough storage in? Because obviously each one of these could have been a cupboard, but fortunately Michelle and Jeremy came up with this ingenious design to make sure that we do have enough cupboards and storage for everything, and it's actually worked out okay, because it turned out to be quite a lot to fit in this relatively small space, even though we do realise for a boat galley this is pretty spacious. But for everything that needed to go into it, it was a bit of a puzzle to work out how that was going to happen. But we do have plenty of overhead storage here, along the walls there, which Masa has shown, and then dry food storage under this sink here. So actually, it's been all right.
And on this side, we have the electrics cupboard, which is if you like, the heart. Well, I suppose the engine is, but also what is otherwise the heart of the boat. And by the way, here we have a very useful RoboVac. It's fantastic. It's well known that boats get dusty, but I find houses get dusty as well. But certainly this helps immensely. It only does the floor, obviously, but it does still help immensely in not having to sweep the floor all the time. And we have limited carpet, so this works very nicely indeed. So here we are, the the electrics locker. So what we have here, we've got more storage overhead. The head torch, wireless, and all sorts of things, very useful. The Dyson I do find is excellent here, and we've got a very strong inverter, 10 kVA I think, and we've got the circuit breaker for 240 volts and the circuit breaker for the 12 volts. We have the coolant tank, and here we have the hybrid control box and the isolating transformers, all sorts of things, and we also store things here as well. We've got the solar controller there. Here we have the water for the topping up the battery and various things, and we do have more storage under the board as well if necessary. And these are incredible wiring that TriStar's done, very neatly done, everything. We'd hope we don't have to go into these at any point, but if necessary, I'm sure we can go through it much easier than if it was a complete bundle. Here we have a nice gauge with a brass panel, and more of the solar controller, the inverter controller, and here we have a nice panel which shows what is happening currently. And of course, because we are on shoreline power, we're not actually getting much from the solar at the moment. Bilge controls, and here this is quite a fancy little device that I found in order to turn on the aircon unit remotely. Well, the sun's been out all this time and it's getting a little bit warm in the saloon. As we always talked about, we really want 20 degrees, 55% humidity in the saloon. It's getting a little bit warm, so it's time to turn on the aircon. So we have the chiller controller over here, which we turn on, which will work the chiller unit and start circulating the chilled water right, it's really chilled water right across the boat. And then we turn on each of the air handlers as we want. We have one in the crew bedroom, one in the main bedroom, and of course we have two air handlers in the saloon to make sure that the cooling capacity is ample for the really hot summer with lots of guests on board. So here we have the control unit that I have found. This is an amazing little device, I have to say, called the SwitchBot. So what we do is on the Wi-Fi, we can turn this on and off, and this is the control panel for the aircon. And I actually have a Wi-Fi camera trained at the control panel. So we can always monitor what the situation is. So here we are. Now, basically, we need to turn it on once so that the panel lights up, and then we turn it on again so that the chiller unit starts. I have carefully placed this little unit right where the on-off button is. Now, certainly, I'm not from SwitchBot, but this was an amazing find that works so perfectly for our needs. So here we go. Isn't that fantastic? Now we go straight over to the saloon, but we do need to wait for the cold water temperature to go right down to like 3 degrees. It's incredible. And basically the air handler will send the air through these really cold, very chilled, cold fins, and the cool air will come out. So now we're at the saloon. We've got the two air handlers. We turn on the unit. And it will come on when the water is chilled. We do have the aircon in the crew bedroom, as well as the main bedroom, which becomes my green room for concert cruises. Now back to the galley. So the customary storage under the step. Now up to the first step, of course, is entirely taken up by the huge battery bank. But here we have...
Well, shouldn't I do the lifting? Why are you trying? One of us should try.
Didn't lift.
Two of us here, Massa. What are you doing?
Never mind. Okay, take two. Yeah.
No, see, let me. You can't.
Right, so the customary storage under the steps. The top step, we don't have storage because the whole of this span is taken up by this huge battery bank. We have 1085 ampere hours. In fact, talk of specs, we have just over 2 kilowatts of solar panels on the roof as well, which all goes into there. So then here we have a more traditional storage. We put tools in here, very useful. And finally here we have more Hoover attachments, cleaning things, all sorts of things. Very useful storage indeed. It all really works out very nicely. And I do remember Michelle talking about, we want a full-size dishwasher, we want full-size this, full-size that. How are we going to fit it in, even though we had a wide beam? And of course, the one final little bit, even the bin moves very smoothly thanks to a little attachment I found. But here, we also asked for an underfloor storage. And I remember Jeremy saying, well, it might look good in catalogues or whatever with wine bottles and things, but two things, it's not that cold down there, and also it gets very, very dusty. But I said, well, really, we're just going to use it to store onions and carrots and things like that. So this has become known as the onion hatch. It turned out to be, of course, very useful. We do end up storing mainly my collection of Guinness cans of Guinness, but it has turned out to be very useful. It is extra storage, and indeed it's not that cold, but one, it's just so good to have more storage. And of course, if you put it from here into the fridge, you're ready for that pint a lot sooner than otherwise.
I have to say, one of our favourite features on this boat has to be this amazing glasswork by Catherine Webley. She's a fused glass artist, and we first discovered her at the Crick Boat Show when we went. We were just looking around for ideas, and this was long before we had even commissioned the boat, and we came across her amazing artwork, and we went back the following year and then put down a deposit for I think it was the porthole first, and then the door came later. But she's designed these incredible 2 windows for us, and they're complementary in design. And so we've got the trees with the sunset and then reflection in the water. And I don't know if you can see so clearly on the door, but the really nice thing about the door is that it looks different from both sides, and on the other side you've actually got the texture of the glass. So obviously the window is has this safety glass, so it just feels like a window, but here you can actually feel the texture of what she's done, which is really, really nice. I'll just close this so you can see it properly. This is our cruising wall here. So as you would have seen, this is our Regent's Canal cruise where we went through central London with the St Pancras Cruising Club. So we are hoping to eventually fill this wall with all the different travels that we've been on. Obviously not very many in the last year, but hopefully that will very soon change. As we come through, we have kind of getting towards the concert theme with some posters and CDs. And there'll be more as we go down the corridor.